Hi, I'm Lisa,
And I'm Ray.
and you're listening to.
This Midlife Hustle.
In this episode, we're going to talk about finding a supplier on Alibaba.
Yeah, our first attempt. I'm gonna give you the kind of outline that I laid out today. I know I've been doing a little bit more of this than you.
Yeah.
But have been sharing with you some of my conversations with some of the suppliers. So you'll have some interesting things to share from your perspective as well. But I'm going to explain what happened when I jumped in without being prepared.
Yeah.
Just jumped right in, and I'm going to tell you how that went. I'm going to tell you about my attempts to resolve that and how that didn't go as I planned either. And then I'm going to kind of reflect on my experience and tell you the next steps, what I plan on doing next.
Yep.
Let's jump into the first step. So I as I said, I jumped right in, meaning like I told you, it's like low stress. You just fire up a Alibaba, start looking for what you need and start talking to suppliers.
Yep.
And in my mind, it was going to be an experience. I'm just telling you my little utopia. It was going to be an experience much like Amazon. You go in there, you find what you need, you find a couple suppliers that are providing what you need, you review, a little bit of information about them, try to evaluate their quality, have a conversation, get a quote, boom, we're off and running, right? That was my utopia.
Oh, yeah,
that was in my
yeah.
mind. Like I could be sure that that's exactly how it was going to go down. It's not at all what happened.
Nope.
So first of all, I just genuinely had trouble finding the exact product I wanted. There's so many keyword. Do you know what keyword stuffing is? Do you know what that means?
Not really.
You'll learn because it's an Amazon thing. Like you ever see a title that has a whole bunch of words in it that don't even seem like they all connect? It's like they're trying to hit everybody's search term in one title of a product, right?
Yep.
There's so much of that like when I was trying to find the exact thing I wanted, which is a very special type of coaster design, which it's not a really exotic thing. It's just a very specific type of coaster design.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't actually find anybody who was providing what I wanted. And part of my thing is a custom print. And like a lot of them would show like black images or something. I'm like, oh, well, clearly they don't do a custom print because they're showing me a black image. But then as I learned later, that's not always true. So anyways, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But what I found was it was just difficult for me to find a supplier. So I finally found one that I was like, oh, all right, they've been in business for 5 years. They look like they do the types of products I want. They say they can customize this. They say they can customize that. Let me start chatting with them. So my initial chat, I thought it went well. I told them what I wanted. I wanted dye sublimation printing on white, right? Which is a very specific kind of process that you would think somebody who's in this business understands that term. Even though it's English and there's some translation, that has to be an industry term. And so she started showing me some samples that looked like what I was looking for. And then I started asking about quotes. I wanted a quote for a certain quantity, and I wanted to include packaging and custom printed packaging and shipping, right? So along the path of her trying to articulate exactly what I was looking for, we started getting into the specs of the coaster, and I needed something a little bit different than what they were providing. They provided a coaster that was something like 3 millimeters high, and I needed something that was more like 10 millimeters high or 1 centimeter high. So as we got into that, she's like, oh, well, now you're going to need a custom mold. But once you have the custom mold on file, we'll keep it for you. I'm familiar with this from other industries as well. And I was like, okay, fine, but let's just explore the pricing and the rest of the details. So as we got into that, we eventually got to the point where I wanted a sample. I was asking her, all right, well, I need to now move into, she gave me a quote finally. It was like pulling teeth. She finally gave me a quote that included packaging and shipping and printing and the mold and the custom designed coasters. So finally gives me a quote, and I'm like, all right, well, I didn't even answer her about whether that was a good price or not. I was like, now I need to evaluate your quality. So I asked how much it was going to be to have a sample done. Well, the cost of the sample was like, I don't know, a fourth of the cost of having 2,000 of them done or something. I'm like, wait a minute. That's ridiculous. So before I spend that kind of money, and that's even like without having a custom mold done, because I wasn't about to pay for a custom mold when I just want to see a sample of their work. And they're like, well, we're happy to give you something from another customer, But if you want a custom print run, it just takes time to set that all up, which I'm familiar with, again, from the merchandising industry. Like, I get it. It takes some time to set up a print run or something. But I'm not about to spend like $100 on a sample of an item that costs a couple bucks to make. And really, my goal was to evaluate their whole process. I wanted to see how they work through the process, right? So this is where the problems began. In order to avoid paying money for a sample before I can evaluate quality, I was like, all right, well, show me more detailed examples of your quality. Show me close-up photos of this and that. Now she starts showing me samples of things that are using an entirely different printing process, like heat transferred vinyl, or if you're familiar with screen printing, it's like paint. It's like acrylic paint.
You showed me the photos, and I could even tell.
Right. I was like, wait a minute. That's clearly silk screen printing.
Right.
This isn't what I'm looking for. And she's like, and then she sent me more photos. And the other photos were also silk screen printing. And I'm like, no, I need dye sublimation. I'm looking for full digital. And then she would send me something that did look like dye sublimation printing.
Yeah, one of the photos did.
But they were geometric shapes. And I said, well, I need to evaluate the quality of the resolution of your photo printing abilities. So I need to see a photo printed dye sublimation, not these geometric shapes. And then she replies with images of coasters that were in geometric shapes. I said, this is what I don't want. Like, oh my God. I was trying to be very patient. I know that there must be a communications gap. At the end of the day, I had to tell this person, like, I don't think we're communicating effectively. And this doesn't work for me. Right? You saw what that dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Do you think I was being clear in my communications?
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I understood everything.
Yeah. So I don't know what translation software they're using or how that works on their end, or maybe a combination of somebody just not being on top of things and a cultural difference and a language barrier. But man, it just, at the end of the day, if I can't communicate with you effectively, I'm not going to get a good feeling about using you as a supplier. I'm not going to get a good feeling about giving you a substantial sum of money to get a product done for me and know that it's going to be done right.
What if you send her not a sample, but like a photo of like...
I did that.
Oh, you did that.
Did you remember seeing? I was like, did you refer? Look at the photos. She's like, well,
oh, that one that you sent. Yeah.
Yeah. I showed her a picture of a picture of a whiskey and cigar print, right?
Yep.
I was like, that's what I'm looking for. Something more like that.
Yeah.
And what did she reply with me? Like more photos just showing geometric shapes printed.
Yeah.
It was really driving me crazy. I'm like, I was really struggling to say, like, I didn't want to say to myself that like there's something wrong with her. It must be the communications barrier.
It must be something. Yeah, because you know how I'm Portuguese, 100% Portuguese, and when I speak Portuguese, it's in order in my language, but when I say it in English to you, sometimes the words are like backwards,
right?
Or maybe it's that. I don't know.
I'm sure that's an element to it. So I have more of this story to share, but if you're enjoying this so far, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with friends, help the channel, help us grow. We'd appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So next steps, I realized I had to tell her that I just can't do this. Right.
Yeah.
And then I started looking. It was daunting because now it's like, oh, now my journey's not over. It wasn't my little Amazon, experience, my little daydream of I'll just go pick a product and hit, use Amazon Prime and get it in 2 days.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so.
That kind of scares me for when I'm ready to talk to somebody. Yeah.
It's a different domain. It's different types of suppliers. Maybe you'll have better luck,
Yeah.
So, I went and started searching again, and now I've been a little bit more on the platform, and I think I'm starting to get it. So I looked at some suppliers that had something that looked close enough to what I was trying to get, and they didn't do a good job of marketing themselves as saying they do customization. But if you looked in the fine print in their listing, it was like a feature of the services they provide said customization. So I was like, well, what the hell? I'll reach out to them and ask them, can you do this type of dye sublimation printing? Well, lo and behold, they do, right? All their photos just showed like plain colors and mostly black images, but they do actually do custom printing. And their first response to me was much better than any of the responses I got from this other supplier. The only thing that was a little suspicious, and I didn't tell you this, but like 2 of them sent me almost the same photos, the same coasters. It was a grungy looking American flag. Do you know what grunge means? It's like it looks a little roughed up and dirty.
Yeah.
So it was a grungy looking American flag done in like photo quality. So I could tell it was the printing technique I wanted. And both of them provided that. But the base of the material that was around it looked not perfect. And you know how I am. Like I wanted it to look premium.
Yep.
And I don't want to have a little bit of a raggedy edge that looks like it's not clean on the outside. So I basically went to both of them and asked, like, is there something better we can do there? As of the time of this recording, one of them did reply. And I think she's basically going down the path of saying, well, you're going to need a custom mold for that. Maybe we do rounded edges over there or something like that.
Right. So
I'm hopeful that we'll be able to resolve something like that. I still don't have prices from them. But it's also, equally difficult because a lot of these, it's like there's different levels they're at. Some of them are just used to dealing with people who are actually just using Alibaba to source like a large inventory for a corporate purchase or something, right? Like if you're a company who wants to distribute 1,000 items or something, you just go to Alibaba, you source a supplier that can do it. So they're coming to them with an image already, a design already. I haven't created these designs yet. I have the concept in mind and I know some designs I want to create. But I'm not going to, it hasn't been on my priority to go create those designs yet. That's the easy part for me.
Right.
I know how to do that.
Yep.
They want to know, they're like, oh, share the designs with me and let's get this going. Like they're ready to go, right? Like, no, hold on. I need to evaluate quality. I need to see what your quote's going to be and all this. It's also interesting that not all of them have the ability to do packaging. And I learned a little bit from this first one that I think what they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do this in this place too. Some of them only do part, if they're in my case, it's like a coaster with a felt, right? So they may be the felt manufacturer and they work with a silicone manufacturer because it's going to be a silicone part to this coaster as well. And so basically what they're doing when they put a quote to me, and maybe why it's taken so long, is if they don't have the ability to do all these steps in-house, maybe the only thing they specialize in is felt, then they've got to get an order in from the silicone
somewhere
folks.
else, yeah.
And then they've got to, maybe they even have somebody print the dye sublimation and then they do the heat transfer or something. I don't know. It looked to me like some of them do it themselves. Everyone's a little different. It just depends on the factory. And then the packaging is a whole nother level. Like a lot of them don't have their own packaging facility or ability to print the boxes that are used for packaging. So they'll put in an order with somebody else who provides the boxes to them. Then they'll basically assemble the whole order. Wow. So for me to get everything done, they're actually kind of acting like a subcontractor or a contractor, and they're putting all these different pieces together for you and then giving you a final price.
Are you going to be able to see how it's packaged?
Yes, that's
photos.
Well, that's part of my problem. I was like, I want to be able to order a sample that includes, and I don't know if I'm going to be successful or I'm going to find but I think I need to do this because I want to be convinced that I'm working with a supplier that I can trust and has good quality. So when I find the right supplier, I want to be able to ultimately order a sample that I can actually get in and see for myself. And I want it to be my print in my box because in part, I want to work through the process of seeing how they work through it.
Right.
And I want to see, how effectively they communicate with things like, overprinting and things like that. Like sometimes you have a need to do stuff like that and how they will resolve those issues with me and their attention to detail and attention to quality. Right.
Yeah.
And even if it costs me a little bit, since we're going to be putting orders together that are probably on the range of a couple $1,000s at least for the initial order, even if that costs me $100, I'm hoping it costs less than $50 or so.
Right.
But if it costs $50, $75 to do that first run and just get it and be able to evaluate it and then be comfortable, oh yeah, this is what I want.
Yep.
Then we can roll, ready to roll, and then if this product that I'm thinking takes off, then I'll be able to just put in repeating orders as the inventory goes low, create new designs and I'll be in a workflow with them.
Yep.
Here you go. All right, here's a new design because I can trust them then.
Right.
So that's part of what I'm trying to look for.
And what is the turnaround?
Oh, see, that varies with the suppliers. I did learn a little bit about this. Some manufacturers have suppliers in the US as well, but those are usually for things like that they can pre-manufacture and then ship them to the US in advance. And then you just order from them and they fulfill it using using a US warehouse. But it just varies. Some of them have different production capabilities or they get backed up with certain orders and stuff. I think it can be as short as a couple weeks, then plus shipping. So depending on what shipping mode they use and what rates they have and all that, it can take a long time. Like if it's coming over and freight overseas shipping,
Right.
that's usually the cheapest shipping, but it can take like a couple months. And that causes a little bit of a kink, a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Because if I'm operating in a month-to-month model because I'm trying not to put too much money in, let's say I create a product that is successful, and I have 2,000 items sent to Amazon, and they sell out in a month. If it takes me 3 months to refill Amazon again, I may be losing.
Yeah.
Right?
I would be looking somewhere else.
No, it's not that. Like it's because of shipping, basically. So they'll be happy to fulfill the order, and it might only take them a couple of weeks to fulfill the order, but then it takes 2 months for shipping. So then, yeah, you're right that some of them may have looking for someone else in the sense of like making sure that you use somebody who has shipping rates and works with shippers that can provide good service, good speed, and at a good cost.
Yeah.
But some of them, like, they can be quite expensive if you want the speed as well. So you just got to factor that into your business model, basically, at the end of the day. So I learned a lot more even through this second round. My journey's not quite done yet, but I figured what I would do is kind of wrap up. Normally I do the wrap up at the end, but I think I want to kind of do an extended wrap up so I can talk about some of the lessons learned as I went through this. Number one is, and I know I've seen this advice before, I think I just ignored it. Contact multiple suppliers. Right?
Yeah.
Some of them recommend contacting as many as 10 different suppliers if you can find them. Most of them say at least contact 5. But if you don't contact 3, you're doing something wrong. Right? At least 3, bare minimum. But you should really be contacting 5. You should actually be getting samples from 5 different suppliers. Although, it depends on the product and all that. But like it could get costly to get the samples. Some of them, I've heard that some of them will actually do it for free or at a reduced cost just to try to earn your business. But so far, the ones I've been using, either they're trying to take advantage of me or they're charging way too much. But maybe it's because of the custom nature as well. Also consider, just for perspective, like once you start talking to multiple suppliers, you start getting a perspective on like, oh, wait, I didn't know this. And now I know to ask this to the next one. Or I had this trouble previously with my communication style. Let me try this communication style instead. And what I've been finding is like, as I contact more suppliers and start learning how to work with them and talk to them, I'm getting better at it. And I know like what they're looking for, what to avoid. I'm using very basic English. And the other problem though here is the reason for contacting multiple suppliers is some of them can be flaky. Like they can, one of them like just kind of ghosted me for a day and didn't give me any information back. And I had to ping her. But then as soon as she gave me information back, she wanted an answer right away. She like pinged me multiple times. Like, like, are you here? Are you listening? Like,
right.
And mind you, it's like a 13-hour difference in time.
Right.
So, my midnight is her, I think.
Midday.
Yeah, like 11 a.m. or something like that. So that's one important piece of advice is contact multiple suppliers. Then the second piece of advice is, and this may be challenging for you, so I'm curious. I want to talk about this a little bit for you. Use simplified communications because they're probably using a translator. Avoid, colloquialisms or sayings that are like unique to your region or, Americanisms or whatever. So let me give you an example that blew my mind when I was thinking like, I wonder if this is the source of some of my communications frustrations with them. Oftentimes I'll use the phrase or phrases such as pretty much. Now think about how that might translate literally. Pretty, meaning beautiful, much, right? So like this translator may be putting things in, I mean, I know the translators get better over time with things like this, but I don't know. I genuinely wonder.
Or it switches like much pretty.
yeah, but it has nothing to do. When I say pretty much, I'm saying something to the effect of it's very similar.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with something being pretty. Right?
Right.
And so I'm wondering when you start doing this as well, are you going to find the same problem because, English wasn't your first language to begin with.
Yeah.
I
might. I don't know how that's going to go, but hopefully I have better luck.
Maybe we need to start using like ChatGPT, like AI to rewrite our phrases to make it simpler, right? Like make this a sentence that a third grader could read.
Well, do we know like what country or whatever that we're using? I know that one, Where was that one? That was almost a 12-hour difference.
Yeah. So obviously we're still learning this together.
Yeah.
What I understand is that there are multiple markets like Alibaba. I think Alibaba is right now, at least, exclusively Chinese or dominated by Chinese suppliers.
Okay.
There is one, I think there's one called ThomasNet that's the US, but it's kind of hard. Like, I mean, the US, they're good with certain specialty products, but US costs are higher,
Right.
but you might make up the difference in cost because there's less, less shipping costs.
Right.
So it really depends on the product. And then as I understand it, there's a couple other ones, like maybe like an India market or something like that kind of includes like India and Pakistan and some other regions like that. And they have a market too. I forget what that one is called, but there's these different kind of markets. They're supplier markets is what they are. And Alibaba, though, I think is pretty much exclusively Chinese. But there's a lot of suppliers that do business with English-speaking people all the time. So it may just be a matter of some of them have better, representative sales reps. Because I think the way they're organized is they have these sales reps that take these orders, get all the details cleared, and then pass it on.
I wonder if we use like one of those programs that we speak to it and it translates right away into their language. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I wouldn't know. I know what you're saying, but I wouldn't know. It would be like gobbledygook to me. I wouldn't know what the hell it's saying. But I mean, I see what you're saying in the sense that it could help if the translator we're using is a higher quality than what they're using and has the ability to do this. But I refuse to believe that. Like this day and age, like Google Translator and all these different translators, they're really high quality.
I know.
So I'm just having trouble understanding. It must be like colloquialisms or things like that are causing this.
I'm going to say something silly and probably will sound stupid, but we've been watching Amazing Race. Some of these countries that they go through, I mean, it looks like it's in the middle of a farm field. What if it's something like that?
I mean, it could be in some of these cases.
And they have a flip phone still.
Yeah.
Or a Nokia, whatever, know?
Yeah.
So it's you never know.
Well, it is. So, of course, you only can see what you can see online, but Alibaba does a good job of like having these supplier profiles. So you can learn a little bit about the company. And I did that. And they look like legitimate company in the certain province of China. And you can see like where their location is and what their factory looks like. And I did my homework on that. It all looked up and professional, but you don't know really. We're not actually traveling there. So that all looked legit. But I do wonder. I mean, it's a big problem. So the lesson there is like use super simplified communications because it's very difficult to communicate with them. And then there's a final lessons learned that I didn't really think about till after the fact. And I'm glad I didn't start talking pricing details with these other two yet, because I need to watch some YouTube videos and do some reading on negotiating practices in these other cultures. In the American culture, we're not used to negotiating with people at bazaars and stuff like that. Other cultures, it's just normally how you do business. I know you and your sister are different.
I was going to say, have you met me and my sister?
I know.
We negotiate for everything.
Yeah. And you have gotten deals at furniture stores that I would have never thought like, that the price that's listed isn't the actual price you can sell it to me for. Like I wouldn't have even known that really. Yeah. But, in other cultures, it's very much part of everything they do in business and personal life. Like it's like you go to the grocery store, you go to a food bazaar and it's like you're bickering over a couple cents on an orange or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just part of the culture and it's not part of our culture. You go to the grocery store, there's a label on an item and that's how much you're going to pay for it. Right. There's no bickering with the grocery store about how much something costs, right?
Unless it's damaged.
Well, yeah. You know what I'm saying though?
I do
you know some tricks, I know. So, what I'm saying, though, is I need to spend some time educating myself in that because I learned even from the sample, like I could see that she was trying to figure out a price with me. I'm like, that price is too high. And she used the old sales tactic of, then what price do you think is fair? Right? Like, well, like, I don't want to give you the number. You tell me the number, right? Like, so like, and you have to know a number that is reasonable and you don't know what their magic number is. Mm-hmm. And they don't know what your magic number is. So I just want to see what is the norm and maybe get some advice about how to negotiate with these folks as well before I get into the next conversation about quotes and all those details,
Yeah.
So it should be fun. That part you should do well with.
Oh, yeah.
Once you know the basics of how to
Yeah.
do things and
Yep.
the construct of all that. Because there's things that you probably can't negotiate too much. And once you know how
Yeah.
much shipping costs and stuff like that, people won't be able to kind of pull the wool over your eyes on
Right.
that one.
Right.
But on the actual goods and stuff, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works with you once you get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you, after hearing all this from me, are you kind of excited about getting into this? Or are you a little bit more nervous about the supplier aspect?
I'm learning from you, so I'm excited. I'm still excited. I mean, I really hope that what I want to do really works out for us, price wise and everything. We just have to find the right person. Like what I want, I don't think China can provide for me. So
Oh, so you're gonna need those Indian markets. Is that what you're thinking?
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
it's hair related.
yeah,
Yeah, this would be interesting. So you might
yeah,
not even end up working with Alibaba then.
yeah. So
Oh, that'll be
I
some more homework we'll have to do
more
together.
homework. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've narrowed it down to two products that I'm looking at, and at this point, mine, I definitely need samples of. Again, feel, touch, what it does, how to how to apply it and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all. I think it's just I'm more scared of. I know mine will make money 100%. It's just again quality. We're both
Right.
big on quality, and I think mine might be a little bit more than yours.
Yeah.
And so we just got to kind of look at the numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah. The difficult part for both of us is going to be finding a supplier we can trust and we want to do business
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll keep you guys informed as
Yeah.
we follow along on this journey. We'll keep you
Yeah.
informed of what's going on as
Yeah.
best we can. Learn from us, from our mistakes, and if you're somebody out there who actually has some advice, if you do this for a living, hit me up, hit us up.
Yeah.
We'd be glad to learn from that as well.
Yeah.
All right, well that's a wrap. Please remember
To like, share, and subscribe.